Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge. Whether you were burning one of your remaining trades or relying on rookies to cover the carnage we experienced heading into this round, it was a case of simply plugging holes. Despite having to worry about all of Took, Miller, Gawn, Rankin and Heaney, I managed to use just one trade and rely on rookie cover along with my 23rd man to get me by. So thankful. But it wasn't ideal, of course. But Liam, how did you go? How did you fare? Did you manage to dodge? I know you don't have Maxi Gawn, but did you dodge the other carnage?
I didn't have Gorn, I didn't have Rankin, I didn't have Heaney.
No,
So
Heaney?
yeah, no Heaney. I had to put up with the fact I didn't have Heaney, but I had Took. Poor me.
So just one.
I
Poor
had
you.
Took. Poor
I'm not going to
me.
feel sorry for you. Here I was about to roll out the bloody Kleenex and be like, we can wallow together as one.
No,
But no, it's just me.
I don't need to. You don't feel bad for me. Don't cry for me, I'm already dead.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Exactly. Although you do still have the likes of Jack Steele, don't you? So that's the
No, I
equivalent.
traded him. He's gone.
Oh my, no, that's definitely you've got no sympathy from me anymore for the remainder of the
And I've
season.
traded Rao. So
And you've traded Raul.
they're all
You've got
gone.
like no deadwood. You got no holes
Oh,
to
trust
plug.
me, there's a lot of holes to plug. Yeah,
We'll find out what they
still
are
ain't
very,
one.
very shortly.
But anyway, before we do get into it, because there is a lot of holes to plug, Damon, we better talk about our socials first. And of course, you can find us on YouTube if you search SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to subscribe to be notified of when our content does drop from week to week, and you get the full audio visual experience. On Twitter, you'll find us at @supercoach_edge, Damon at DamoJ88, myself at Liam Evans _95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Search Supercoach Edge, and you will find us there.
Very good. Well, let's get into how we both scored for round 18 and get into these holes that I'm plugging and duct taping up. So I ended up scoring a 2,235, and ranking wise, ended up sliding down 539 spots to now sit just outside the top 3,000 at 3,024th overall. In terms of trades, I ended up using one of my last two, which was Tookie Miller to Caldwell, and was able to swing Caldwell forward to cover Heaney. And I guess, yeah, even though I had a bit of a down week, I was kind of expecting it, with many trading out Gawn for those that still had trades remaining, for the likes of a Nank or a Cherry or an English or whoever. But I think those, I guess the differential between the points they scored was kind of around about 50 or so points more than what Kruger scored, who was my cover for Gawny. And I guess looking at my side as well, 9 players turned up and 13 didn't. So it's not really surprising my scoring was rather limited. But outside of that, not only the likes of Neil and Goulden is probably the big difference, I think, at this stage. That's a big discrepancy between myself and those other teams that have scored about 100 points more than me. But Liam, how did you go for the round?
Yes, I managed to score 2,245. So it was very, very close to pip you by the 10 points there, though, which was nice to see from my side. Went up in the rankings very slightly, 1,511 spots up to sit 49,241st overall. So in terms of trades, I did trade out Steele, as we spoke about, and obviously the injured Took, and I brought in Connor Rosie and Kobe McKercher. So Kobe McKercher, 79, not too happy with that, but I mean, I think overall it is what it is. Spent a lot of time in the fourth quarter on the bench. It was like upwards of 10 minutes.
Strange.
So strange one there, but I don't think too concerning.
Yeah, probably managing his load probably more than anything, because I think he played
coming
quite a few
back.
minutes the previous week.
Yep, so not too concerned there. Rosie, 105, bread and butter, happy with that. Especially considering, I mean, Steele went, I don't know what Steele scored.
Just around about
99.
100? Not even 100. Well, there you go.
So I'm happy with that because Rosie, I think, was a downgrade. Yeah.
Yeah, and he scored
So I
105.
made some cash off the back of that. Across the field, I mean, so you would have heard in the last episode that I was going to go Merritt as my VC into Dunks as my C. And that did not eventuate in the slightest, purely on the basis that I forgot to actually set my VCNC this week. So just by
Really?
chance, yep. I didn't realize until after the Bulldogs game where I had Nick Dacos as my VC, so he scored 89. So I was like, oh, it's okay. And then I didn't realize that Bont had the C on him, but he scored 108, which overall worked out probably better because I would have had Merritt as my VC at 82. Wouldn't have taken that. And then
No.
Dunkley 103. So I got an extra 5 points.
Yeah.
Still not happy. I mean, but outside of that, I don't think, like looking at my side, there was no captaincy worthy scores
No,
except for
it was
Nick
pretty
Martin,
limited.
which I mean, you'd have to be psychic to think that he would score 142. Butters 120, not too bad. Probably could have gone that way, but yeah, interesting one there. I've still got 3 trades left, so I'm thinking about some trades this week potentially. Obviously avoided all the carnage of those other trades, so potentially could look to bring in a 23rd man.
So what you're saying amongst all of that is ghost shipping is the way to go when it comes to VCNCs?
Pretty much. Just don't care. Just don't
Yeah.
care. I and it was like I did it and I was like, seriously, what was I like? I remember talking about it, but I'd made my trade, so I didn't reverse trade, like reverse whatever it is or undo changes, and it's just reverted back. I just never made the changes.
Well, there you go. No, well, it worked in your favor, so that's
don't know.
that's the main
Worked out
thing.
slightly.
And it worked out well for our head-to-head lane because you've gone back to back with consecutive wins, and I've told you it's happening. You are 3 wins to my 15, and the differential.
There's 6 games left.
The differential you
The
whittled
math
it
ain't
down
mathing.
an extra 10 points to now sit 2050. Sorry, 2015 points in arrears, but yeah, I mean you're making it a bit more competitive. That's the main thing, which is good. We like that.
It is good. It is
Yeah,
good.
we like that. So with that, Liam, let's jump into our first segment, of course, and it is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So first up, we have the good, and it is none other than Nick Martin. And after a relatively lean patch scoring-wise over the past few weeks, Marto went bang with a 142 as he transformed virtually into plugger and kicked an absolute bag. Where did that come from? I know he got pushed forward. There was another game where he did that I was talking about on radio as well. And geez, he's got a few tricks up his sleeve, does old Nick Martin?
I think it was the Collingwood game off memory.
Yep. Yeah,
Anzac
that's it.
Day. Started the last quarter in the forward line. Same thing happened here. Oh, I didn't realize he kicked 4 goals in the end. Explains his score of 142. And I think he had another one late that he passed off. So it could have been 5. Could have been even higher. Yeah. Interesting one. Onto the bad though, Harry Sheasel. It's rare to find this young gun in this category, but he was one of the higher owned players to let us down with a score of just 75 against the Swans. But no doubt he'll bounce back, especially considering the Swans are a very tough opponent for midfielders to score against. So not too concerned there.
Spot on. And running us up with the ugly, it is Matt Rowell. So the GOAT, spoken about him enough, but he is well and truly transformed into a cow. And whilst the diet of grass is still the same, the only output he has nowadays are stinky cow patties with a 65 on the weekend. Just not good enough. But we'll have a chat about him very, very shortly, won't we?
I don't want to. I'm sick of him.
Well, at least he's out of your hair now.
At this stage, we're going to rename the ugly segment the Rowell. The Rowell Award at this stage. Just absolutely putrid scores.
Yeah, week after week. Poor Rowley. Anyway, with round 19 on the horizon, let's jump into trade talk now with The Price is Right.
Show me the money.
The price is wrong, bitch.
In The Price is Right, we discuss potential trades and trade targets from week to week and round to round, obviously. And we even discuss whether particular trade players should be traded at all. And we're going to kick off with going, gone. And so obviously these are the guys to kick out of your side. First up, Damon, we've got you're going to take him because I've just looked down the run sheet and I don't want to talk about someone else. So you can talk about him. Just doing the maths.
Even though he's out of your hair, but
I don't
strategic. I
care.
like that. So first up, we have Alex Sexton, forward defender, priced at 416.5K with a break even of 97. And it may have taken a few weeks longer than we thought, but Sexton, he was finally dropped with first choice defenders, all healthy for the Suns,
Mm.
and all sexy, now expendable. Worse still for Sexton, Lockie Weller could also be fit enough to return to the Suns side, further pushing him down the order. Mind you, in the VFL, he did have 25 disposals, 6 marks, and 5 tackles, so at least is giving himself the best opportunity to return to the side, but may have to wait for an injury slash
Mm.
suspension in order for it to happen.
Move him on. Move him on.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Bruce Revel, mid forward eligible, 294.4K and a break even of 126. He was named sub on the weekend, so hopefully no one needed to rely on him as cover off the bench for Heaney. And scoring an 8, that hurts. Given he was named a sub, though, naturally it appears as though he is now seen by Fagan as a bit of a fringe best 22 player, so may make way for a player in the VFL if form does warrant. He's dropped 19K off the back of his sub-affected score of 8. So if you are looking for a stepping stone to a primo with any spare trades you have left, lol, he may be the candidate. However, if he can keep your spot and avoid the sub-vest, he could provide valuable cover on the run home if you are ever in a pickle, especially with that handy DPP status. But I mean, if you've got Dowling, it's much of a muchness, really. So is it time to take the Breville out of the machine and let him go?
Yeah.
Eat that
Yeah.
Breville.
Yeah. It's going to be hot on the inside still, the old
Is
Jackal.
it? It's cooling down, I reckon.
He is. It looks like he's cooling down a bit, so maybe he's ready to eat, like you say. Yes. But this next man is the man that you wanted to avoid because he's giving you nightmares. Matty Rowell. I spoke about him earlier, obviously, so I speak about him again. 452.5K with a break even of 118. And as we said earlier, the GOAT is now a cow, and not even a lucky cow at that, with no tons since round 12 and scores since then reading as 82, 82, 79, 79, and 65. So does that mean the next score is going to be 65? Because he's like duplicating.
Oh, he is.
As he goes.
Oof.
Maybe.
And it's also decreasing.
Yeah.
So that's not a good sign. It was 3 down and then 14 down. So it's exponentially growing. I don't know.
It is. Yeah. But he did drop another 24K on the weekend in price and has now lost a combined 119.3K. A big fall from grace from the early season pod primo that he was. And if you have the trade to make the correction, the time is now to pull the trigger. Or should we say that the time was like 3 weeks ago?
Well, the time was probably like never getting him in your team.
Which I didn't, thankfully. But I was very close. Very close.
He was good. He was good early. It's fallen off the wagon.
He has.
Absolutely fallen off the wagon. I don't know. Like, I haven't watched enough Suns games to really get an understanding of it, because you'd think the way he likes to play, you'd think he'd still be able to score well. Obviously loving a tackle. But yeah, not working out for him. No. Trade him. Get rid of him.
Get rid of him.
Next up, we have Nathan Ruger. Ruck forward eligible, 237.6K with a break even of 18. And he has now increased a total of 113.7K after a score of 56 last round. And with a break even of 18, still has a bit more money to make if you need it. But if you are in need of a downgrade, to get a player to fund the upgrade of another to a genuine primo, perhaps Freddie is your ticket. However, he may not be a viable trade depending on your structure if he is providing coverage for Gawn while he's out, or provides the only DPP link with a Jackson in the forwards. He looked like he was on for a massive, or not a massive score, but a decent score on the weekend. Not that 56 is bad, but looks like he was on like 25 or something at quarter time. I think everyone was licking their lips going, oh, here we go.
Yeah, him and Richards, actually. Richards was the other one that was performing quite well and then just absolutely disappeared. But, yeah, I definitely fall into that category of needing to use old Fred to cover Gorney. I could swing Jackson into my rucks, but either way, I've got Rankin on my bench, so it's either play Freddie Krueger or play Richards. So yeah, probably would like to loop Richards at this stage, but let's move on to the next category, and it is get them in. So first up, we have Lachie Neale, midfielder, 674.4K with a break-even of 68. And Neale, probably goes without saying, has been in some amazing form recently, flaunting his high ceiling with scores of 179, 168, and 162. And he's averaging 122.7 for the season. And, I guess his high floor, his floor isn't super high, it more than averages out, obviously, with those high ceiling games. So, that's kind of what we want, especially for captaincy worthy scores as well, don't we? Even better, he's averaging 130.4 at the Gabba this year with 3 of his remaining matches at the venue, including the SuperCoach Grand Final, of course, where he faces the Dons, a team he averages 122.8 against, which you know all too well, I'm sure, Liam. The downsides, however, is his run home being very tough and his high price tag. He's also susceptible to a tag with 3 to 4 potential tags upcoming from the Swans, St Kilda, the Giants, and Essendon. And we have gone ahead and we've listed down here courtesy of DFS Australia, looking at the defense v position for the rest of the season, depending on the ease of the run home for each player. So we've gone through. And yeah, we've categorized them much like last week, Liam. Anything you want to add here in terms of the average, everything else?
No, not really. Average is just, he's in the negatives. He's -1 out of -5. Based off his run home, he's got two tough matchups against Sydney and the Giants in terms of mids. He's got a relatively two neutral games against Collingwood and Essendon, kind of neither here nor there. And then one against the Suns and one against St Kilda that are positive and somewhat positive and somewhat negative, those 2 matches. So it kind of evens out. But it's, overall, 2 tough matchups in Sydney and GWS that really drag him down.
Perfect. And yeah, it's those tags as well, which haven't really come as yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if those teams that run home actually put it a time.
Sydney, it's like Jordan's the tagger. He hasn't really been tagging mids, more like those sort of halfbacks. So maybe he goes to Zorko.
Yeah, true.
St Kilda, they were using Windhager. I don't know. He was injured. I don't know if they've had a tagger since then. Giants, obviously Bedford. Bedford's got 3 weeks, which unfortunately for Neale, that's his 4th game back. That's his 4 games. So he'll be around to play that game. Collingwood don't tag, as we all know. And then the Dons traditionally probably don't have a tagger, but they probably would want to put a player like they did against Dacos on him. A Caldwell or a Does. But yeah, definitely think he's a good trade in, but if you could find 674K.
Spare coin. Maybe in your ashtray.
I'm just trying to think how you could possibly do that. Like maybe if you had a Gorn, but you'd have to be still trading, you'd have to have another ruck.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Luke Jackson in R2.
No.
And I don't think the points differential will be big. Like, the points you gain wouldn't be enough to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, depending on the player that you're bringing into the forward line to cover Jackson to go into the ruck, it probably either evens out or probably in the negative. So, yeah, but that's virtually, you're right. That kind of demonstrates how hard it is to get him in. Unless you got bulk coin to trade out someone like a Tom Green.
And even then you need 134K. So you'd have to trade, you'd almost have to trade a Revel down to a bargain basement rookie and then use all that cash to get Tom Green up, which, it depends on how many trades you have left.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, because this is a luxury in light of all these injuries we've had. Interesting. Something to ponder.
Next up, we do have Mateus Filippo, forward eligible, 266.4K with a break-even of -59. And he has truly broken out over the past couple of weeks, seemingly, posting scores of 112 and 101. And this has come off the back of increased CBAs with 63% and 68% over his last 2 games, the most CBAs he has had over his career to date. Early signs are that also he could have a high floor, backed by the fact he loves to tackle with an average of 7 across his past 2 games while playing in the engine room. Scary thing is he actually possesses high upside given his time on ground has been just 68% and 77%. And likewise, if he can clean up his disposal from the 58% and 50% he's had, his scores could soar. This round he faces the Eagles, who give up the second most points to opposition mids, and with a projected score of blah blah blah, with a break even of -59, you won't see him at this price again. And then again, we've looked at this run home, defense against position, and here's a very positive run home. Plays the Eagles, lots of points to mids there. Plays Richmond and Geelong, both giving up bulk points. His only negative game on the run home is against Brisbane, which is a somewhat hard matchup.
Yep. No, he's got a few ticks in the old boxes there, does Philippou, so don't mind that at all.
And so yeah, his average works out as 2.2 out of 5. So very, very positive. And I guess just facing the Eagles this round could be in for a decent score. I would certainly. He's the one I'm considering for my 23rd man.
Yep. That's exactly the sort of player that I think I'd love to get in that role. He's around about 10K more expensive than Dowling. He's around about he's 19K more expensive than Joe Richards. Freddie Krueger is around about 29K more expensive.
Yeah.
So there's guys there that you can kind of, as long as you've got a bit of money in the bank, just do a straight swap for, provided you don't need said player that you're trading out in a certain position. But
he's only 8K more expensive than Jai Clark.
Oh, see, you've been holding on to him for all this time. You know you've got to do it if you've still got him.
I do still have him, the mascot of my side. Yep. Yeah, no, I do. I quite like it. I think as someone you could loop on, I haven't looked at his fixture in terms of when they play for the rest of the season, but looks like he plays relatively early on. It will just depend on who else you have in your team that you'd. I know he plays late there. Not an issue though necessarily. Yeah, you just want to have a look at his fixture. And who you'd be looping on with him. So like he's only forward eligible. So you'd be looking at Kerno probably.
Yep.
So just weighing up whether you can screen one of their scores and then loop on the other.
Yep. No, I don't mind it at all. The one thing that worried me was he's posted a couple of scores of 18, 23, 40, but those were games where he played probably out forward. Whereas like now it's virtually like a change in role. And as we know, with any role change comes with a bit of uptick there. And he's obviously on the cusp of a bit of a breakout as well. Earlier than what I thought because it's only his second season now. So I don't know. That's the only question mark I have on him is I don't know if he can sustain it. But if he's a 23rd man, like you say, that's the perfect role because then, if you're able to loop scores on and off and really capitalize on those big scores and avoid the smaller ones, that's the way to play it if you can.
Yeah, and that's the only reason. That's the only way I'd bring him on is as a 23rd man.
Yep.
I wouldn't rely on his scores on field because, as you said, he's got his low scores. Obviously, a different role. 2 scores of 18, 23, 40, 43, 45, 58, 63, and 71's his next highest.
Yeah, he's probably, as you say, not to be relied upon up front, but don't mind him at all. We also have Zach Butters. He's priced at 619.3K, break even of 79. And after having a slight dip in form across the bye, which saw his price drop to 565K, he has now increased 50K over the past couple of weeks off the back of scores of 159 and a 120. Highlighting that decent form in recent games, he has a 3-round average of 131 and a 5-round average of 118.4. Interestingly, his CBAs have dipped to 31% and 50% in his 2 most recent games, yet was still able to bust out that 159 and 120. So his impact isn't overly reliant on being guaranteed CBAs and a role in the engine room. Has some positive matchups as well against Richmond, Melbourne, and Adelaide on the run home, but we have to be wary of tag risks. So on the run home, of course, this is comparing defense v position on DFS Australia. And he has, as I said, positive matchup against Richmond, favorable matchup against Melbourne and Adelaide. Not quite to the extent of Richmond, but still pretty good, positive. Negative matchup to the extreme against Sydney, a negative matchup against Freo, and a bit of a neutral one against Carlton for an average of 0.33 out of 5, which is still neutral into the positive territory. So
Yeah.
could do much worse than that. But I think the main thing to take away from that is the tagging side of things, I think, potentially. Richmond's
Yeah.
been very, very interesting in recent times where they've kind of utilised Graham as their tagger, which is really annoying, especially when I captain Sarong against them. But yeah, it's aside from that, you know what you're going to get from Butters. He's got the high ceiling that we love and relatively high floor as well, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, and I think looking at I don't quote me on this. I did the maths earlier and I can't remember what it was. I think it was about 103 was his average at Adelaide Oval. So not the best, but plays 3 games there for the rest of the season. So just, I don't know, not much, not necessarily something to worry about too much because I think he's probably dragged down by some early scores there. Just trying to look over his scores. Yeah, his most recent scores have been quite high. So I think that's where he's going to be okay. But yeah, something to consider there. But yeah, the tags are probably his biggest risk. Richmond, I mean, who knows? Carlton, you'd expect that Chincotta goes to him.
Yep.
Sydney, again, not really sure.
Yeah, James Jordan, who knows?
James Jordan,
Yeah.
maybe. Melbourne, I mean,
Neil Bullen.
Neil Bullen, but I don't know. Berry against Adelaide and then Freo, maybe a Young, but I don't really think he's been tagging.
No. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just like so many unknowns as to whether he gets tagged, do they tag, all that sort of stuff. But I think he's still scoring well enough anyway, aside from all that. He's got the runs on the board. He's got so many tons on the board, which is awesome to see, and a good captaincy option as well.
Agreed entirely. Let's move on to the next guy on the list, and it is Dylan forward eligible, 533.8k, break even of 134. He is currently the 6th best scoring forward with an average of 94.7. And since round 4, Moore has been swinging between a roll-up forward and stints in the engine room and then being camped on a wing. Scoring isn't the most reliable with a high degree of variance, and his ceiling needs work in terms of consistency, having only posted 7 tons from 17 games. But promisingly, 2 of those tons have come in the 2 of his last 3 games. But with so few half-decent, semi-reliable options available, especially with Rankin still out for another 3 weeks, Moore does present as one such option if you're desperate for a forward upgrade in order to get a rookie off field. Upside is he probably has one of the more favourable runs home as well in terms of opponents conceding to opposition general forwards, with Collingwood, Carlton and Richmond among them. So he has a positive run home with Collingwood and Carlton being 2 very favourable opponents. And only 1 negative opponent, and that is Adelaide. It's only somewhat negative. So it's sort of halfway. It's not the most severe negativity, I guess. And then 1 somewhat favourable against Richmond, and then 2 0 games, so sort of neutral. So overall, 1.7 out of 5 is his sort of average there, which is pretty positive.
Yep, no, he's good. Don't mind Dylan Moore, and like you said, he's kind of he's the best of the rest, really. Whilst Rankin's out. Jackson's an unknown, and then everyone's obviously got Flanders, Heaney, apart from yourself, Liam, Caldwell, Zorko. So he's probably the next best rung to look at. Let's round things out now with LDU. So he's priced at 603.5k, break even of 102, and it feels like only a few weeks ago we were all lamenting how LDU never lived up to expectations at mid-season with tons in games that were few and far between. Since then, he has posted 5 100-plus games in 5 out of 6 games and currently has a 5-round average of 122.8 in what has been a hot run of form. But due to a score of 72 being sandwiched in among his past 5 games, his price has actually dropped 32k, so comes at a relative bargain compared to his recent output. Has a somewhat favourable run home, with some of his opponents by and large leaking quite a few points to opposition mids, including Geelong, Richmond and West Coast. And those are all super, super positive matchups in the grand scheme of defence v position. Carlton, who he also faces, is a bit of a neutral one. Has a little bit of a negative matchup against the Dogs, and quite a negative matchup against the Hawks for an overall average of 1.3 out of 5, which is obviously positive. So not too bad an option is LDU, especially at that price point.
I mean, would you go for him over Neil and bank yourself 70 something K? What is it, 71K?
It depends if you got the cash to splash. If you don't, I think LDU is definitely one you can rely upon.
Just ownership.
He's at 9.1%, I think, from
Yeah,
last
okay,
round.
so
But
not quite
the one thing
odd,
I think is probably lacking compared to Neil is he doesn't have that consistent high ceiling. Like he has had those high scores,
but
which have
not this
come more so in
consistency.
recent weeks, yeah, but not the
Mm,
consistency of Neil. So that's the kind of the thing separating the two. Um,
I will say though, he seems to have, other than that 67 against Carlton way back in round 3, he has a better floor than
yeah.
his floor was slightly higher,
Mm,
I would say. Like sort of 90, 87, 67 and 72 lower, but yeah. I don't know. I just think just for the cash that you can save,
yeah.
it's almost like Kmart nil.
Yeah, yeah, true. And I guess the thing with Neil, as you say, like comparing the ownership between both of them, Neil's is 16.1%. So he's quite up there in comparison to LDU. So I guess if you want to try and make up
Mm.
ground, if you want to sort of antipod, I guess, if you want to go against the grain and fade Neil, in hopes that he is a bit of a downer and LDU can pick up some points on top of him to make up ground, that's maybe a strategy to employ.
I think the other positive thing is looking at his run home. This also goes, I guess, against Neil. The tag risk seems so much lower. Carlton, yeah, potential tag. Geelong, probably not. Richmond, I mean, who knows? West Coast, you wouldn't expect it. Western Bulldogs, you wouldn't expect it. And then Hawthorn haven't really been tagging of
Mm,
late. So it's an interesting one. I think his positive run home also helps him compared to Neil. It's almost like polar opposites in terms of their run homes,
yeah,
their runs home.
no, it's true. Yeah, strategy you might have to employ. But yeah, it comes down to how much cash you've got and cash to
Yeah.
splash, all that sort of stuff. But don't mind him as an option.
Let's move on to on the bubble. And first up, we have Zane True, mid eligible 138.6K, break even of minus 36. And he has scored a sub affected 22 in his first game, and then he was able to score 94 in 74% time on ground with this, which was comprised of 21 disposals, 4 marks and 8 tackles. That was a mess. Unsure of his job security for the remainder of the season, but with caretaker coach at the helm, you'd think blooding youth will be a directive from here. So yeah, I think one to consider. Higher price point, not super favorable. I reckon
Mm,
at this stage you're probably looking more to non-playing players
yeah, we're
to
kind of in that
maximize
stage,
your
aren't we?
cash. Yeah, you should have enough cover, hopefully.
Mm. Like I think majority of people should have a Dowling, I assume,
Yeah,
um, or a Revel. I think
yeah.
Dowling is his ownership's 40%. So for those teams that aren't go shipping, I think that covers pretty much the majority that are still active. So yeah,
Revel's
unless
only
you're
in
desperate.
16%,
Oh, there we go.
and his
Interesting.
height
People
was
might.
only ever 23%, so it's not like he
Hmm,
was highly owned.
there you go.
But I guess, yeah, between that, a Kruger, a Richards, like you'd expect to have some cover across, your forwards and your mids. I know he's
Mm,
only forward,
yeah,
mid eligible. Or you can just be like me and have no coverage in your defense. Just take
that's
that
me as
risk.
well. That's totally me. I think a lot of people will be having that, like banking on them having Reed
Yeah.
or a Dawson, who everyone
I've
brought in for
got,
cheap, and who might be back. He might be back as well,
yeah, that is
Dawson.
true.
Mind? Because I think he might have made a return on the weekend, the VFL.
I still have Marty Hall just sitting there doing nothing.
Forgot about him. Should have. I was
Um,
thinking, like, who else would it be? But yeah, Marty Hall.
the only other guy you could potentially consider is obviously Humphreys, if you are worried about cover.
Yes. Yep.
207.4K. I mean, he's scored 108 on the weekend to follow up from his 66 and then 91. So he's got a relatively high ceiling. Being given the keys to kick as well, and play aggressively could be one to consider.
Yeah. He's
if you're
disposal
really
efficiency
worried.
is like insane. He's really, really
Yeah,
clean with the ball.
was going at 100% by foot at one stage, and I think he kicked one out in the full.
Yeah,
Um,
stuffed it for himself.
but yeah. So, but again, it depends on your trades, how many trades you got left,
Mm.
um, and all that.
Yep, next up we have Ned Long, midfielder, 190K and a break-even of 44. And the former Hawk, now Magpie and mid-season rookie draftee, is on the bubble as well with scores of 25, which was sub-affected in his first game, and 41. Had 56% CBAs on the weekend for that 41. However, he did fail to capitalise on the increased minutes in the middle, but otherwise spent stints up forward. Unsure of his job security, but may get an extended run due to the Pies' extended injury list, but probably one you can't rely upon safely, especially at such a premium price point with no return on potential investment guaranteed.
Agreed. I find it so
Mm.
odd that he's priced at 190K, despite the fact that he was a mid-season rookie that hadn't played a game. Like, I know he was at
Mm.
another club, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I'd
don't know how they
love to
worked
know
out.
how
It's
that
interesting.
works.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, like, I'm not calling it out or anything, but just curious as to how they work it out.
Mm.
Um, anyway, next up, Joe Fonte, defender eligible, 117.3K, break even of -25, has played the two most recent rounds for scores of 61 and 32. As a defender, it would seem his time at senior level hinges upon the fitness of Taylor, who could return as soon as 1 to 2 weeks, so wouldn't have any confidence in him in his long-term job security. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't think it's one to look at. Did you?
No.
This is just not really related, but I just read an article that not Sam Taylor, the other one, Jack Buckley, he's going out with a Olympic hurdler apparently, and he
Mm.
requested that he could go take a game off so he could go see her in the Olympics, and
Really?
apparently got told no. Yeah.
Interesting. No, I
And
didn't see
so
that.
yeah, I'll see if I can find it. But apparently, he's now considering it's going to be like he'd miss a game against Brisbane or something,
Yeah.
the GWS Brisbane game, and so he's considering whether he can fly out after his game on a Sunday. I think it's against Hawthorn or something, and then get back for his Saturday game. I'm like, you have to fly to Paris. I mean,
That is
commitment.
incredible.
I love it, but
Like, well done for trying, mate. Well done for trying. Incredible.
but
That's
I
funny.
just
Yeah.
I just don't anyway. So maybe Fonte will get a game for that. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
exactly
maybe
right.
maybe Kingsley will soften and be
Yeah.
like, you know what? Yes.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
see the
if
error
they're
in
not a
my
chance
ways.
of not a chance of finals or something, he's like, you know what? Young love, go over there.
Anyway.
Quite funny.
Strange
Quite funny.
strange things.
I will admit though, until you put his name on the run sheet, I'd never heard of who Joe Fonte was. I thought he was a character out of like The Sopranos or something,
Oh
or
yeah.
Goodfellas.
Very much sounds like his
He's part of the mafia,
yeah.
part of the mob. Joe Fonte. Hey, Joe Fonte, man, where you been?
Yeah.
Don't have a
I mean,
calzone.
initially I did think he was Fat Tony's one of his sidekicks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
But who knows?
You have 24 hours to give us our money. And to show you we're serious, you have 12 hours.
Good old fat Tony. Anyway, Liam, I'm sure that if you were a part of the mafia and you were the godfather of the mafia, you would roll into the nearest pizza joint, of course, which would be a front, as you spoke of
Oh
the other
yes.
week in New
Yes.
York. And even if it wasn't, you'd be walking in there and you'd be owning the city, and you'd be like slamming your fist on the table, being like, "Hey, where's my money?" And they say, "Sorry, Godfather." And you say, "No, no, no, I'm not the Godfather. I'm the captain now."
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Oh,
Oh, it took you on a journey. Then you're like, "Where is he going with
that
this?"
was a great journey. And I want everyone to know that was not in the run sheet.
It wasn't.
That
It
was
wasn't.
that was pure improv.
It was straight off the
Um,
top of the dome. I
that
didn't know where I was
was
going with it, but we got there in the end. I just threw myself into the deep end with the fishes, as if I was sleeping with the
uh
fishes.
So does this mean that Joe Fonte's nickname is the captain now?
Yeah, maybe he's the captain now. Maybe this is the segment. You're like,
Oh,
there is no captain option apart from Joe Fonte.
that's it. Because bloody hell. I don't know
Yeah.
where to go from there. Yes, this is I'm the captain now. And we are here to chat about your VC and C options that you've got for the coming round of Supercoach, Joe Fonte being number one. As always, we've
naturally.
scrounged through the data and found the top options for you to consider. First up, we have my boy Zach Merritt up against the Crows, and he's coming up on a Friday night. And this presents as a solid VC option with Mez, with a 129.3 average against the Crows in his last three matches, with scores of 109, 136, and 143. But that being said, Merritt does come into this game with a 3-round average of 101.7, and Sam Berry is a potential worry too as a tag option for Zachariah. So, yeah, interesting one. Not sure where I'll be going.
Not sure if you'll put it in H.
No, not sure if I'll
I'll
put
have
it
to
in
fi-
H this week.
Give him a week off. Let him rest and recover.
Let him. He doesn't have to make the pizza this week because he's.
The pizza.
Yeah, he doesn't make the pizza in my pizza shop because I'm the captain now.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I apologize. You
Come on,
wouldn't be
David,
handing him.
this was
you would-
literally your
No,
segue.
you're going into the pizza shop because that's the front, and you're going in to collect your money because you're like, yeah, they've been doing like drug deals and stuff, and but yeah,
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
yeah,
I
but
thought
yeah,
I was
you
just
can,
a. I thought I was just a pizza mafia.
yeah, pizza mafia. Maybe you own all the pizza stores, but like you're a straight citizen, like no
I just go
crime.
in trashing other pizza stores, like just
Yeah,
spitting in their sauce and
challenging them to a duel by taking off your white velvet glove and slapping them across
oh,
the
I was
face
gonna
with
grab a
it.
piece of pizza and just slap them across the
Yeah,
face.
grab the dough instead, smash them across the face. Oh, yes,
Oh,
that would be good. Maybe that's like a show, like a cartoon you can come up with. That'd be quite funny. Anyway, that'd be like a children's version of like Mafia, but just
yeah.
yeah, with all the blood and gore. And instead of blood, it'd be like pizza sauce.
Hmm.
Yeah, you could get away with that way.
Instead of brains,
Anyway,
it'd be pepperoni.
it'd be a pepperoni, shredded ham,
Yeah.
the plastic shredded ham.
Hmm.
Next up, we
No,
have
no, no, no.
another.
Excuse me. My
Yes.
pizza shop does not use plastic shredded ham.
Oh, they use
This
El
is this is
Natural.
this is
No
this is good.
preservatives.
This is good stuff.
You're just pushing Clary Oliver into a shredder. That's how you
Oh,
know it's good ham.
that's it. Is
Yeah,
if it is
and
a
pig
good
juice as
ham,
well on the menu.
is a good ham if it's Clary
Yeah, it's
Oliver
probably
right now.
spoiled ham. Yeah,
Mm,
but the pig juice, yeah, you have that on the
the
menu.
pig juice, yeah, that's on the menu.
It's
Of
definitely on
course,
the
that's on
menu.
the menu.
How could it not?
Anyway, let's move
Yes,
on.
next up, we have Le Bon, which is one of the rival pizza stores, Le Bonton. Bontempelli up against the Cats, and he has a 3-round average of 123.7 and a 5-round average of 126.4, so presents as a great VC option. He faces the Cats, that give away the second most points to opposition inside mids, and his last three against the Cats, they read as 141, which is earlier this season, 146 and 113 for a 133.3 average. So not bad. Not bad at
Yep,
all.
not bad option. Next up, we've got Zach Butters up against Richmond. And when he's playing at Adelaide Oval this season, he is averaging 105, including scores of 159, 130, and 127. And he faces the Tigers, who are currently giving away the third most points to inside mids. And to top it off, his recent history against the Tigers is a score of 175 earlier this season, 158, 104 for a 145.7 a 3-game average. They're also his second best team to score against based on his average of 105 from 9 games. So it's all coming up Butters here.
Very, very buttery goodness there. We also have his teammate Rosie, and he is another option to consider for captaincy with a 3-round average of 125.3, but he doesn't have the scoring history of his midfield counterpart, averaging just 105 in his last 3 games against them, which were scores of 90, 114, and 111. And it's also important to consider he's only had 3 scores this season, 125 or above, so maybe one to miss.
Next up, got Chalky Neal. up against Sydney. And he has been an absolute hot runner form, as we've been talking about. He's averaging 145.3 in his last 3 games, with 3 of his last 4 scores being 140 plus. And they play at the Gabba, where he is averaging 130.4 from his 8 matches there this season. But he does face a Swans outfit that is stingy against opposition inside mids. We know he is vulnerable to a tag, so could the Swans decide to throw Jordan on him to quell his influence? That is a question we do not know the answer to.
Exactly right. But a option nonetheless. So also in that same game, his teammate Dunkley, he presents as an option with his last 3 scores against the Swans reading 137, 62, and 129 for an average of 109.3. But he has also been in some great form with 3 of his last 4 scores above 140. As we've said, the Swans are the hardest team for mids to score against, so it throws some question marks up in the air indeed.
Yes, and we've also got Jackson up against Melbourne. And this does come down to whether Darcy is named. He missed last week with a concussion, so we assume he may be back this week. I don't know if there's been any news about him. Assuming that Jackson is the number 1 ruck, he would be facing his old side without his old partner in crime, Max Gawn, and Jackson could be in for a big score if he does get the keys. His 3 scores against the D's are 102, 93, and 75. But we do know when he solo rucks, he can score well. And he would potentially be facing Petty in the ruck if the D's don't decide to throw in a different option. So could Jackson be in for a mammoth score?
Yeah. As you said, like it kind of hinges upon whether or not he's going to be the number 1 ruck. But yeah, I thought you were going to say there's a petty opponent, which probably is in that case. Petty in both senses of the word, because he wasn't really, I mean, despite you obviously saw it firsthand against your mob, no ruckman, they're still able to win. So do you reckon they'll just go into the game with like, yeah, who cares?
They're playing over there, so I don't know what the weather in Perth is like.
Yes.
Because I think that's partly why they didn't worry. Is it a Saturday or a Sunday game? Doesn't matter. Doesn't have rain.
Yeah,
there's a 20%
second-last
chance
game
of
Sunday.
rain on both days, but it's not being classified as a rain day.
I see.
So yeah, I think that'll come down to it as well. I think the conditions suited not playing a ruckman.
Yeah, interesting. See what they go with, and if Jackson's number 1 ruck, could be up there as a potential smoky. Otherwise, if Darcy's back, yeah, probably relegates him to the tall forward role, which does not generate too many points. Let's round things out with Paddy Cripps up against North Melbourne in the last game of the round. And North are a team that he averages 113.3 against in his last 3 games, with scores reading 100, 114, and 138. And he also comes into this game with a 134.3 3-round average, with 2 of his last 3 scores being 144. So, yeah, even if they've got Will Phillips, wouldn't be able to match up with him. It's similar to, I'm surprised Chincotta actually did a half decent job on Bond. I know we were talking about it last week as a potential. But you kind of need someone like that who is kind of like a, tallish mid-sized defender or player that can play on a tall player like a Bont or a Cripper, or virtually like, tall forwards as midfielders. So yeah, he would absolutely throw around as well ragdoll Will Phillips, much like Dacos was ragdolled by Jesse Cameron on the weekend, which is quite funny.
Hilarious.
It was quite funny, wasn't it?
That was beautiful. That was the only part of that game I actually saw, I think. I didn't get to watch the game.
Anything else.
I didn't see anything of that game except for that. It was great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hilarious. Yes, so with our head-to-head, Liam, captaincy head-to-head, I ended up picking one back with my option in Chalky Neal going 143 compared to your choice in Dunks, who scored the 103. So you're on 9 wins to my 8, and I've still got the positive differential in my favour of 72. So you've got the first choice this week, Liam. Who are you eyeing off?
Who am I eyeing off? I mean, there's only one captain option now, and that is Joe Fonte.
Yep, that's a given.
So here's one option.
Only because of his standover tactics when he walks into pizza shops. You just have to give it to him.
Yeah, that's it. Bont against Geelong, I do like.
Mhm.
And Butters against Richmond, I also like. I'm going to go Bont.
Le Bont.
I do want to go Butters, though. I'm just slightly worried about a tag.
Mm.
They didn't tag. Who do they play on the weekend? I mean, is there anyone to tag in the Suns midfield anymore?
Wait, the Suns, did you say? Suns?
Yeah, Suns. You wouldn't tag. I mean, you don't really want to tag. Like, you could tag Anderson, I guess. But
Yeah.
no, okay, I'm going to go Bont. I feel like there's a good scoring history. He's in good 3-round average.
Yep.
And the Cats give away a lot of points.
Okay, lock and loaded.
Lock and loaded.
It is in. Well, off the back of that, Liam, I'll go, just to make you feel better, I'll go for Butters. Um, we'll see how he goes because he's probably he's going to be either my C or VC, but I'm a little bit worried about Graham tagging. But Butters, he's good enough. He looks to be one of the guys that just kind of doesn't care about tags and can score well regardless. So we'll see how we go. Butters.
I think the frustrating thing is that Bont and Butters are probably the two that I feel most confident in. And they're playing at the exact same time.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what I was looking at as well initially.
If I could
with
get
my
a Bont,
team.
if I could Bont into Butters or Butters into Bont, that would
Yeah.
be ideal.
Sorted.
But looking at it, you almost have to go, I don't even know. Because there's no one from
Yeah, you'd need to run the risk with like a VC on merit potentially first up and hope that he doesn't get blanketed by Berry. Mind you, Berry looks to be playing more attacking as well. Like he's scoring quite well, getting his hands on the ball a bit more. He's not just solely being that bloody scragger, cooler player. Yeah, I don't know who else, like Dacos maybe against Hawthorn, but would you trust Dacos in recent games? Like his disposal efficiency has been pretty shit. Not the
It's
same
like he's
Dacos.
rattled.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like the games on the Sunday, unless you've got
Like
a Neil
Neil-
or a Dunkley.
But even then, like Neil and Dunkley against Sydney,
Yeah.
like I don't know if I love it. Brisbane
No.
also give away a negative number of, points to
Yep.
mid. So it's not necessarily like you want to go for Heaney or Goulden. Like they've been like going to Jackson against
Yeah.
Melbourne.
Yeah. Unless you go a Walsh the last game, which we kind of haven't spoken about, but like obviously inferior
not
to
a bad
Chris
option.
because he may get tagged. That's the thing. Like he may get tagged by Will Phillips. That's what I'd be worried about. But still a half decent option against a bit of a relative minnow.
Or even LDU against the Blues.
Yeah. Yep. That's another one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably right. It probably actually has to be merit into either Butters or Bont, and you're just gonna have to pick one, obviously.
Yep.
If
No, all
I
good.
know, I know I got the first pick, sorry, but if you had the first pick, who would have you have gone for?
I
Bont or
would have
Butters?
gone for Butters but only just like I think that's just with like, and then again, it's like, well, Bont got tagged by Chincott and was still able to score a 108.
Mm.
So it gives you a little bit of security anyway. Like I wouldn't be unhappy with that. Like compared to the bloody whatever I scored from merit, like 82. He was my captain on the weekend. I would have loved Bont's bloody an extra 26 points in comparison. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm just gonna say Butters against the Tigers, and I'm expecting him to probably get tagged, but I can see him burning off Graham. Graham doesn't seem to be the mobile
No.
tagger. He'll burn him off, like his big body and stuff. And like he scored well in his past two games as well. Butters 158 and 175. And 175 was back in round 2.
Mm.
But again, coin flip, I reckon. Genuine coin
Yeah.
flip. So I wouldn't be unhappy with either Butters or Bont.
Yeah. I just thought it was a good question in terms of asking it for the punters listening, because I don't know what I'd probably have to flip a coin.
Yeah.
Bont feels safer.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why. Because I can see them both having big ceiling scores.
Yep.
But I don't know. Yeah. Don't know.
Yeah. And like he scored, like both of the guys as well, like Butters and him have played the upcoming opponents already this year. Bont for 141 back in round 4 against the Cats. So that gives you a little bit of security as well.
Yeah.
But it's
And I
obviously
think
that
there's something like a
170, whatever it was,
170, whatever it was, 175. It feels like lightning has to strike twice in a
5.
sense. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Then I'm like, it's at Adelaide Oval as well. Like, yeah, I don't know. You just keep going back and forth. So I reckon just get
Yeah.
yourself a coin, flip it, whatever side it lands on that you've assigned to whatever player is a player you go for as I'm the captain now, unless it's Fonty because it lands on its edge.
It's actually just a double-sided heads. If it's Fonty.
Yeah, exactly right.
Fonty just walks in as you flip it and grabs it out of the air and it's like, I'm the captain now.
Like an absolute boss, like a captain.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Very good.
Anyway, David, have you got another story for
Yes.
us?
Well, did you hear the story about what's his name? Sorry, I've forgotten it already. Fonty. Have you heard the story about Joe Fonty? What he used to do is, to get information out of I guess informants, like, people that have been witness to some of their pizza crimes. He would tie them down, but sometimes not even need to do that because such was the I guess the presence of the man. He would just take off his glove and they'd be like cowering, thinking he was going to smack him across the face, lay it down on the table, then grab a ball of dough, smash him across the face, and say, "Tell me right now. I gots to know."
Hey, I got to know.
That's how he really extract information out of them.
Oh,
Is that good? Was you on a journey again?
yeah, I was on a journey. I feel like I knew less where that one was going than the first one.
Oh, really?
Okay. Great,
Gotcha.
great story, John. This is what
Twists
they
and turns.
This is what they tune in for.
Exactly right.
Oh,
Creative storytelling.
Yes. But anyway, this is I Got to Know.
Mm.
And this is where we
Oh, it
talk
is.
about, we answer your questions. You send them in. We send them to Joe Fonty, get them approved.
Rubber stamped.
And then we answer them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the chain of command. No one knows that, but it is
Oh,
how they know behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz.
that's it.
Who do
But
we have
anyway,
first up?
First up, we have Frogger at My Name is Frogger on
My name is Frogger.
Twitter or X, whichever you prefer. Which of my zero just read the question. Which of my zero remaining trades do you think I should best utilize to move Matty Super Primo Rail on? Damon, I'll throw that to you.
You might need Joe Fonty to go to the heads of SuperCoach and get them to change their database. So just to give you an extra trade or two. Standover tactics might work. Who knows? But other than that, just pray that he's going to turn it around.
Yeah, that's all you can do. I know,
Yeah.
sacrifice something to the SuperCoach gods because
Sacrifice
you've
a
got.
rail.
Yeah, that's all you've got right now.
Or pray to the because I mean, cows are a sacred animal, aren't they? Is it just in India or
Yeah, I
in
think
other
so.
parts of Asia?
Definitely in India.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can pray to, I guess, Rail himself to turn it around and feed him a lot of grass. Well, like, I don't know, I'm not an aficionado in lawns or grass cuttings, but the most premium, pet his head, give him some love, and you watch, he'll turn it around this week. This is the week of all weeks against the other expansion team in the Giants. I don't know. That's all I can say. That's all I've got.
I think yeah. I mean, at this stage, you're almost better off looping him off for bloody Dowling.
Yeah. If you can, just try and loop him with whoever you can, really.
That's probably your best bet at this stage.
Yeah. Well, you can do, because
Fortunately.
as you say, like with Dowling playing first up, put the emergency on Dowling. If he goes anything more than what Rail's averaging, take the risk, take the punt if you need to, depending on your head-to-heads, all that sort of stuff. But the next question we have from our Discord, got a few here. Of course, if you haven't joined us in our Discord, make sure to do so. You
What are you
can
doing?
find the link on our Twitter, X, all that sort of stuff. So what are you doing? Good question, Liam. What are you doing? Obviously not on Discord. That's what they're not doing. LDU for Brownlow, aka the Muffin Man 3686 is his actual username. LDU for Brownlow is his draft SuperCoach name. I think, no, sorry, Cash League name. That's what it is. I should know because I renamed all the names, usernames in Discord. But he asks, is TDK a hold or do you have to trade if Pito is named again? Don't trade.
No, don't trade.
That's a waste. That's a waste.
Yep.
I reckon Pito's going to be out of the side anyway. As a guessing man, given the fact that it
Having
didn't work.
my gut feel,
Yeah.
having
Against
watched
Cherry.
very, very minimal of that game.
Yeah. It just wasn't working.
Yeah. And I think like he still scored 95 with him. Like it's not that's not a concern, I don't think.
No.
Considering his upside is, 140 plus when he's not playing. With Pito.
Yep. No, I think that speaks for itself. Don't waste a trade on that. That's probably in the category of wasting trades. I think that's a wasted side-based trade. So keep hold of good old TDK.
Agreed. Next up, we have Black on White, Blackie White in Discord with Sexton F6 and Richard F7. Who would you hold and who would you trade to Philippou? Oof. Richards feels like he's going to have job security. Sexton's not playing.
No, exactly. Go with what
But I
you know.
don't particularly like having Philippou in F6. But I think if I had to choose, I'd do that.
Yep. I
Like
totally
I
agree
think
as well.
Sexton's not playing, so you're gonna have to. Sexton's currently not playing. I don't think, like you said, I don't really think he comes back in, necessarily. And so you're gonna be playing Richards as your F6 anyway, technically. So you might as well trade Philippou to Sexton to Philippou, sorry, and keep Richards as cover. You can always loop them.
There's a loop. Yeah, no, exactly right. Nail on the head. Always back in the player that is currently playing. And I think with the amount of injuries and stuff that the Pies have, probably gives Richards a bit more job security and actually looks really good, I reckon. He's shown patches where he looks like a nice little pressure forward and can kick a nice goal as well when he has time and space. So
And he's shown that he can score well. Like we've seen, like ceiling games.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you need Sexton for a forward defensive swing.
Yeah, if you've got
Not that you
Fisher
probably
or
would,
something.
but yeah, if you've kept Fisher, and even then, we don't know if Fisher's going to come back this week anyway. So yeah, that's the only other thing that you kind of factor in. But aside from that, yep, I agree. Trade good old sexy man out. And from Discord as well, Bags are on Ginnivan, aka Adam Nemeth. I don't know how to pronounce his name really, if it's Nemeth or
Nemeth.
Is it Nemeth? I don't know. But apologies. I feel like I'm butchering it every time I say it, so I just say Adam. But he's one of our very own. The one, number one ticket holder, so should know. But he hasn't filled us in.
I didn't think you were confused about how to say Adam, or is it Adam? Or is it a dame?
Yeah, a dame, a dam.
I mean, we could be wrong. We could be pronouncing Adam wrong.
Exactly right. There might be a little accent that's missing or something on top of one of the letters. But he asks, of course, the great man, must Rel go this week? And I think we've said it enough this episode.
Should have gone 3 weeks ago.
What should have launched him into the sun? That's probably what you would have done.
I was at that point. No, actually, you know what? I wasn't even at that point because I had so many holes in my team at that stage and I was like, I don't even care.
Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But now that he's out of your side, you just feel relief. You feel freedom. You're relief.
I love watching him play now because I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, you're not riding every possession or non-possession. Last one, Liam, we've got here from Twitter.
Le Grand Trois at it's Captain Koala. Big question asker. Love it. And I love people's handles. Like I love the difference between your handle and your like name. Like I don't know.
Yeah, very, very big difference.
Very different. And I love it. But anyway, how many trades is enough to consider replacing an underperforming Primo? In my case, I have 3 and want to go JHF to Butters using cash, but arguably should keep my powder dry. I mean, how many rounds are left? 6 rounds. You basically got, is that right? Or is it 5 rounds?
5.
Okay, so you've technically got more than half a trade around.
Yep.
If you make a trade this round, you'll go down to 2 trades with 4 rounds to go. I think it comes down to what you're playing for
Yep.
and where you're positioned. If you're playing for leagues and you're, I don't know, not guaranteed, but sort of, pretty safe, then maybe it's worth holding the trades. If you're going for overall,
Mm.
I'm not against trading. Like, I think you need
Yeah.
to make the points. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Comes down to what you're playing for. I'm not against using one trade
Yeah.
to
One
go
trade.
JHF to Butters. I think that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep. I think, yeah, if you're able to do that in one trade, I think definitely consider it. But as you say, it depends where your loyalties lie. If you're going for overall, if you're going for head-to-head, if you're in a head-to-head in a league where you've already guaranteed a top 8 spot or a top 4 spot, even better, you can afford to use that trade. I think that's kind of the way that you can contextualize it. And that's kind of, in some of my leagues as well that I'm going for. It's like I've got one trade remaining, and it's like I'm going to hold on to it for as long as I can because my attention is turned to that. And ideally, I wouldn't mind if I had 2 trades from now on, really. Provided also you've got some cover across each line on the bench. That is even an extra bonus as well.
So, I mean, the only thing that probably is a bit more pressing with this is the fact that you've got Jason Horn-Francis, who has a break even of 147 and hasn't scored that high this season. But also has gone 46, 87, 118, 85, and 71 in his last 5. So,
Yeah.
and then you've got Zach Butters, whose break even is 79. I think I would do it. I'd pull the trigger personally with 3 trades. I don't think it's the end of the world. If you are having to use 2 trades, I would say no.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that front.
And you know what? If you have 1 trade left, just hunt Rail. I don't care. Just
Just
don't
get
even
rid of
bother.
him. Which is what I think George's Fantasy Take TV did. He had 1 trade left and he was like, I'm so sick of Raul. I'm sick of his shit. I'm sick of watching him. And it's hilarious with George because he's done it in the past with Tim English. He's like, I'm so sick of seeing him on screen. That's like the extent of what he goes to. He's like, I'm sick of seeing him on screen in my team. He's out and gets rid of him. So credit to him. He sticks to his guns. But yeah, he punted Raul with his last trade. So there you go, Liam. People are doing it.
Sometimes it's worth it. Like, you can't play the game just worrying about trades.
Yeah.
Like, or worrying about injuries and whatnot. Like, what if you get no injuries to the end of the season and you've held Raul for another 2-3 weeks and you're like, well, what could have been?
True.
So got to wait up. But
yep.
Maybe don't trade him with your last trade. Maybe consider that.
Extreme. Yeah.
But
no, very good.
I'm not against it. Like, I think you've got to play the game.
Yep. And in this case as well, as you say, it's probably sorry, I just saw a late one come through from Kotzi at Kotzi6, who has been sending in some questions in recent weeks. And he asks, how do I remove my team's entry for the year? I think that's virtually where we're at nowadays. That is where we're at. Yeah. And there's one as well here that's been sent in by More Pointy, but it's a bit convoluted and it's a bit hard to sort of track as to what he's after because visually he's shown his team and stuff, and we'll send him a message with regards to that. More Pointy to help you out personally. But outside of that, Liam, it's been another great episode that sees us at the very end. But before we go, where can our listeners and viewers find us across our socials?
Yes, on YouTube, you can search Supercoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe. On Twitter, you'll find us at @Supercoach_Edge, Damon at DamonJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95. And on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, search Supercoach Edge, and you'll find us there. So my asthma is playing up, so I am struggling to breathe.
Geez, well, you're doing well. Make sure you get that Ventolin in your system. Yep,
That's
get it in. Absolutely, get it in. Put it in H. Put it in V. Put V in U. You know what I mean. Anyway, with that, let's not progress any further than that. Let us round out this episode. That was round 18. As we look forward to another 5 weeks left of the season. Jeez, it's gone quick. Another 2 rounds left to go in the normal home and away head-to-head season for Supercoach before finals begins. Interesting. It's going so quick. But Liam, with that, as we always say, may your trades hit the mark and your scores, including that from Raul, head to the moon.
See, guys,
Not likely.
it's not happening.